Right, we're talking about how to set your heart rate and power zones on the bike. So you already did your 30-minute time trial effort. At a different time, you also, if you're a user of power, did a 3-minute time trial. And you hit your lap button 10 minutes into your time trial. You got your average heart rate for the last 20 minutes. And so you get home, the first thing you do, click our good old swim, bike, and run spreadsheet, open it. You're not going to be able to edit this because I'm the owner, but what you can do is make a copy and you can call it, for example, Bob Smith's swim, bike, run zone spreadsheet. If you click copy document collaborators, that ought to send me a copy, which is nice. I'd like to see your zones, and click OK. And so you'll get something like this. Here's mine. So you have your average heart rate from the last 20 minutes of your time trial. So for me, that's 174 will typically be about. You put it right here in this cell right here under average heart rate of last 20 minutes of 30-minute time trial. And this gives you your heart rate zones. So my easy zone up to 137, steady 138 to 153. I like to keep my steady heart rate when I train somewhere around 143. So near the bottom part of my steady zone. Threshold 163 to 177. Yep, and then the other, so heart rate users, you're done right there with the spreadsheet. But power users, let's say I did 30 minutes for my time trial and I averaged about 300 watts. And then let's say earlier in the week, I did a 3-minute time trial and I averaged 400 watts. So what that gives me is a functional threshold of 294 watts. Your functional threshold is basically what you'd be calculated to do in an hour based on the magic of the spreadsheet. And that goes into your power zones. So my easy zone is up to 194 watts, and steady zone 177 to 221, tempo zone up to 256. Up in my sweet spot zone, sort of that Olympic distance, right at the bottom of my threshold zone here. Got my threshold zone for our harder intervals. So these would be the intervals I use. And so one final step I'd like you guys to take after you fill out this spreadsheet, you have your heart rate and power zones, but I'd also like you to go to Training Peaks. We want our Training Peaks to be accurate, so I'm going to go here not as Kevin Cody the coach, but as Kevin Cody the athlete. I'm going to put in I'm going to go to Settings, Zones. I'm going to input my threshold heart rate, and actually I'm going to make sure I'm in bike zones. Input my threshold heart rate of 174, and just click on Joe Friel. That's the zones we're going to use. And you should see your zones down here. Click OK. And let's see, now we'll user settings, we'll do it again. Zones, power zones. So now we're going to put in our threshold power. We got 294. Now the method we want to use is Andy Coggan. And this will calculate my power zones. And what this lets me do is when Training Peaks calculates my zones, it'll show me how often I spent in each zone. Also, for each ride, Training Peaks will give me a training stress score. And there are a lot of cool charts and cool things you can do, but only if you've input these numbers in Training Peaks. So let's save this. Heart rate zones. And I don't know if we clicked save. And OK. And that concludes our little presentation about setting our bike zones. I hope it was as fun for you as it was for me.